I'd like to call the 3 p.m. session of the July 6, 2016 meeting of the Stafford County Board of Supervisors to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Baumke?
Here.
Mr. Cavalier?
Here.
Mrs. Maurer?
Here.
Mr. Milday?
Here.
Ms. Sellers?
Here.
Mr. Snellings?
Here.
Mr. Thomas?
Here.
Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum.
Thank you very much. At this time, I'd like to invite Ms. Kathy Volbrick down in front. I'm sure everybody in the room knows Kathy. She's been quite a face in Stafford County for 18 years. She's held various positions, and she's really become known as the voice of Stafford County. As the Public Information Office kind of grew over time, she was at one time, I think, responsible for the county, the sheriff's office, and the fire department, all at the same time. And Kathy also has had a passion for helping employees around her develop. So she's been one of Anthony's biggest allies in developing things like the best university, and also she does a lot of philanthropic things as well. So although we respect and admire the reasons you're leaving, if we could change your mind, we certainly would like to, but the whole board wants you to know you'll be very sorely missed. We do have a proclamation for you, which I'd like to read at this time. It says, whereas Miss Kathy L. Volbricht holds a Bachelor's of Arts from George Mason University and a graduate certificate in local government management from Virginia Tech. She is a graduate of LEAD, which is Leading, Educating, and Developing at the University of Virginia, and a graduate of UVA's Senior Executive Institute. She is also a graduate of the Leadership ICMA program. And whereas Ms. Volbricht joined Stafford County in 1998 as a public information specialist and has served over the years as public information officer, public information manager, public information administrator, Director of Communications, and most recently, Interim Director of Parks, Recreation, and Community Facilities. And whereas Ms. Volbricht has been the voice of Stafford County for 18 years, at one point serving as Public Information Officer for Stafford Government, Fire and Rescue, and the Sheriff's Office all at the same time. And whereas over the years, Ms. Volbricht's contributions greatly enhanced the health and professional development opportunities for her fellow county employees. She was integral in developing Best University, workplace development classes, and an annual Employee Service Awards luncheon and ceremony. Kathy worked with the Wellness Committee to reinstate the Wellness Fair, and she revitalized the county's employee wellness program. And whereas Ms. Volbricht also oversaw the Human Resources Department and Citizens Assistance, she was instrumental in developing a nationally recognized, award-winning 311 center. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the Stafford County Board of Supervisors on the 6th day of July, 2016, that it be and hereby does recognize and commend Kathy L. Volbricht for her service and dedication to the employees and the citizens of Stafford County.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I want to thank all of the Board of Supervisors for your guidance and support over the years and for your passion to doing the right thing for Stafford County. I've always admired that. I also want to thank the employees of Stafford County. I don't know of a harder working group of employees who are more dedicated to taking care of our citizens. And lastly, I wanted to thank my family who have always been there to support and love me, and if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be able to be here today. So thank all of you.
At this time, I believe we have Fire and Rescue representatives, firefighter Brandon Edwards and firefighter Dan Meckling coming forward. While they're coming up, Fire and Rescue holds an annual drive to collect money along with the fire departments nationwide for the Muscular Dystrophy Association. The drive will be held this August, so look forward to seeing our county personnel at intersections throughout Stafford County. In addition, we are very proud that they also helped collect more than 650 coats for Stafford school children last year, as well as helped collect school supplies for the students. So the board has a proclamation to honor your efforts on behalf of the MDA. It says, whereby, for more than 60 years, fire and rescue personnel throughout the Commonwealth and the United States have partnered with the Muscular Dystrophy Association in the fight against neuromuscular diseases. And whereas the Muscular Dystrophy Association and the families it serves are grateful to all fire and rescue personnel for the dedication to this worthy cause. And whereas since 1954, the men and women of the International Association of Firefighters have raised over $585 million for the Muscular Dystrophy Association. And whereas, to continue their successful efforts to help discover cures for these devastating diseases, the Stafford County Professional Firefighters Local 4012 of the International Association of Firefighters will hold a Fill the Boot campaign during the dates of August 5th through August 13th at major intersections throughout the county. And whereas 100% of monies collected will be used in the greater Northern Virginia and Washington, D.C. region and will help fund research to eradicate 42 neuromuscular diseases, send children with muscular dystrophy to summer camps, and to educate healthcare professionals as well as the general public about muscular dystrophy. And whereas the board desires to bring to the attention of citizens everywhere the outstanding community spirit exhibited by our Stafford County Fire and Rescue Department personnel, now therefore be it proclaimed by the Stafford County Board of Supervisors on the 6th day of July 2016 that Stafford County Fire and Rescue Department personnel be and they hereby are recognized and commended for sponsoring the 2016 Muscular Dystrophy Association Fill the Boot campaign.
First, we'd like to thank the members of Local 4012 for supporting us. They do a great job every year collecting. We'd like to thank the members of the Board of Supervisors, Chief Lockhart and his command staff, as well as our volunteer partners and everyone in the community that makes it such a big, successful drive every year for the kids, especially in our community, that have muscular dystrophy.
And to add to that, thank you again to the Board of Supervisors. We really do appreciate the support. We'll be out in multiple locations collecting, and all the money is going to stay here in Stafford for the children of Stafford. Thank you very much.
Thank you and good luck. At this time, I would like to invite the Honorable Victoria Willis to the podium. Welcome, Judge.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you all giving me some time today to review just a few things with you. I know that some of this information is going to be repetitive. Some of it may be new, so we'll try to move through it. I'm not going to read my slides to you because I think you all have probably seen that. I do want to point out that today I have Judge Sharp with me. In the last meeting when I was here, Judge Levy was here. And I hope that everybody recognizes that although I'm here, I'm really just the embodiment of all of the circuit court judges, all the general district judges, and all the juvenile court judges. We have appointed me as the point person because it is difficult to try and make meetings and to be able to have one voice to come and speak with you and make things easier rather than multiple people coming in. So my comments really are on behalf of all of the individuals, the clerks, and everyone in the courthouse. You know, I know we've seen the slide of the history of the space needs, and we know it pretty well. I just want to point out, at one time there was 33,000 square feet, and we needed 74,000. We freed up a little bit of space by being very innovative and moving some people out, but we only freed up space to bring us to 45,676, and we already know that we're somewhere around 92,862. I'm not a math major, but that tells me that we are woefully short in what we need, and that's part of the problem of why we're here today. What's missing from the timeline did I skip? What's missing from that timeline that I showed you, of the history, is really a federal prosecutor wrote a letter. It's a rather damning praise, calling the Stafford courthouse the first zoo it had visited because the hallways were so crowded with individuals and with people trying to get things accomplished. There have been letters. I inherited a file that dates back to 1992, letters every year from a judge imploring the Board of Supervisors to do something, requesting capital improvements. And some of those letters were answered, and I will commend you because there were certain steps made, but the planning for the future didn't happen. We made little adjustments and tweaks and changes, but things didn't move forward. At one time in 2007, we had funding approved, but then the project was removed again by other individuals. Unfortunately, it's all right to change your mind and switch the project, but it just died. Nobody did any planning. We just ignored it, and I guess we all kind of hoped it would go away, myself included. I own property in Stafford, so I am a Stafford taxpayer. And what we're hoping to impress upon you now is that the stop gaps, the Band-Aids, they didn't work. They worked moderately well, but they're really not the best plan for moving forward. We know that the Sheriff's Department has initiated a plethora of new programs. They've secured technology to fight crime, and they have grown substantially since 2007. The Commonwealth's Attorney's Office has also grown substantially, hiring more CAs and paralegals. A new CA's building was built, a new public safety building, which was designed to meet future needs and shows the planning and foresight. But along with that, the caseloads increased dramatically in the courts, all three courts. And it's sometimes hard to remember that the circuit court is actually not only a trial court, but also an appellate court. If you're aggrieved of the decision at a juvenile court or general district, you appeal to the circuit court. So we not only carry our own caseload, but we carry the caseload of those who are unhappy at the lower court level. And so as those cases grow and that caseload grows, it's that trickle down or trickle up effect, either way you want to look at it. The courthouse issues in 2005 are identified on the left. You'll notice that the courthouse issues that we're dealing with today are almost exactly the same. The only difference is now we need one circuit court, an additional circuit courtroom right now today, and there is nowhere to put it, but we know that we're going to need a second one in 5 years, and we do need a second juvenile and domestic relations courtroom. There is a court hearing space that we're trying to play with and make more and modify, and I'm greatly appreciative of that, but at the end of the day, it still doesn't meet the standards for a juvenile courtroom. There's no space for mediation, there's inadequate spaces for jurors, very inadequate space for lockup. It's troubling to me. I had a guardianship case this morning at 8:30. Parents there, their child has a anoxic brain injury, and they have to be his guardian for the rest of his life. I'm trying to conduct something that's very solemn, that's sad, and you can imagine very emotional. I have juvenile lockups in my courtroom lockup because there's no more space in the juvenile, because if they can't put adults with juveniles, so they have to move people around, and there was banging and yelling and screaming, and we stopped several times, and that's not how you want to conduct something that is a civil matter that's very serious to that family and something that they'll remember for a long time. There's a lack of handicapped accessibility throughout the building, and it isn't just getting in and out of the building. I know Mr. Romanella actually wrote a little letter at one point about helping somebody try to get into the building, but even once you're in the building, moving about the building is extremely difficult. There's no handicapped witness availability, so we just kind of put them in the middle with a little mic that they hold. We don't have an ability to have handicapped jurors, although we have had them at times. All of these things add, and we just can't accommodate. There's no handicapped accessibility for our own employees that are there. Courthouse planning and design has moved a long way. We are on our way, and I know later on in the consent agenda you have the proposal from Mosley for a needs assessment. That's tremendously important. I know that contained within that is some, examining of renovations, additions, what can we do? It's important for the board to keep in mind that when a court is whether the court can meet guidelines and standards after the addition, or will only this addition meet those standards, and will the original part of the courthouse remain in non-compliance. So as you're looking at things, don't let numbers drive you solely. Look and see, are you comparing apples to apples? Do you really have a finished product that is in compliance? When I talk about standards, I'm talking about the Virginia Courthouse Facility Guidelines. I gave a copy to several people who were unfortunate enough to be on my email list. Most of them have said it was not really fascinating reading, but if you do get the chance to read it, and it's available online, it does explain to you a lot of the issues that we're dealing with right now. And the biggest one is our controlled circulation. There should be public circulation, then there should be private circulation in the back, and then there needs to be circulation for security, which is for the sheriffs and the individuals who really keep us all secure. So there's really kind of a 3-level approach. We don't have that now. We share our hallways with everybody, the public, the prisoners. I say hello to people every morning when I get out of the car. Some of them know me by name. Those are a few of our frequent flyers, but it's not a good setup for the courthouse. I wanted to just take a moment to say what goes on at the courthouse, because I think, I'm a judge and I always stand here and I talk about cases because that's what I do, but I'm really doing short shrift to the clerk's office. The courthouse is truly and honestly, it is the center of most towns, and there's a reason. This there's so much more that the clerk does. They manage funds. They deal with fees and taxes and assessments and real estate issues. They deal with judgments that have been placed against people civilly. They deal with land records and recordings, your deeds and your abstracts, boundary lines. They deal with marriages, adoptions, name changes, concealed weapon permits. They deal with all the licenses for business-related and entity filings, as well as professional licenses. They deal with fiduciaries and guardians and estates and conservators. They deal with bonds that have to do with oaths of office, and they deal with election issues. Every year they have to make room for people from the election board to come and do various functions there. So that's why the clerk's office needs the space that it needs. It isn't just about managing the dockets for the courts, which they do, and I kind of think is important, but they do a lot more than just that, and it's really impressive, and they do it in pretty tiny space. So that's why they need space, so that they can have a public area where people can come in and take care of those functions, examine land records and abstracts and things like that. But they also need private office space so they can deal with the things that are more sensitive, the probating of a will and dealing with things like that, and judgments and financial information that they aren't exposed to the public. Also, they do not work in an office that is ADA compliant, so we struggle with that. And so far, we've been very fortunate, but that, as we know, is just a question of time. When we talk about the size of the courtrooms, I know we went over this before, and I gave that analogy that I think I'm still in trouble for, and I won't say it, but they do vary as to what they need. And a circuit court, which handles both non-jury and jury cases, also handles cases that involve divorce, criminal, civil, guardianship, as I mentioned, and the appeals from the lower courts. Normally, the seating needs to be at a minimum of 100. My courtroom seats 83. I held term day on Tuesday. Term day is when all the civil cases get set. I had 120 people in my courtroom. 83 people could sit down, and the rest were just crowded all around and up against the wall and on, spilling over in various places. That's the bad news. The good news is, thank you very much for letting us use the Board of Supervisors room, because we set 21 cases already off the bat, and the attorneys were really delighted that these cases that they have, businesses that have contract disputes, individuals, that they can be heard quickly, that we're not looking at them saying, well, 2018, I seem to have an opening for you, because that's what had been happening. So I will say we got really good feedback. The holding cells that are there now hold, they say 25 to 30. I think some of you took the tour. That's going to be 25 to 30 people standing right next to each other in a lineup, and we know that that's not sufficient. We don't have ADA accessible witness stand, jury box, or counsel tables, really. The jury assembly room is also not handicapped accessible. In the General District Court, that's your big volume. That's your ticket day. They do a lot of other things, but traffic infractions do, commandeer a large portion. So they need normally more seating. They need about 150 or plus, and they don't need holding cells the same size, because they don't have as many that they're dealing with. They do need they have the same technology requirements that we have. We have no technology at all, but all of us need video conferencing. We need the ability to have what I'm doing right now, which cannot occur in any of our courtrooms. People frequently bring their cell phones and show them to jurors or show them to me. I mean, we really need to review that. And again, ADA accessible access. Now, juvenile and domestic relations, it's a smaller avenue, and normally those courtrooms don't seat, you don't want 100 people because they're closed hearings, so we look at seating for 25 to 30. The one juvenile courtroom that we do have is well set up, and it does have separate waiting spaces. One of the things that's difficult with juvenile is the courtroom's not big, but where the people wait needs to be segregated, because you have to keep people apart with a wall. I mean, not just you sit on that side and you sit on that side. It has to be more than just the church aisle. So, and their holding cells they have different holding cell requirements, because they have adults and juveniles, and they can't be kept together. And right now they only have 2 cells. So, if you keep the males separate from the females, that puts the juveniles handcuffed to the, the pipe in the waiting area, which is not good. Just a few numbers for you to look at. Since 2013 and moving forward, unfortunately in 2013 they did a strange change to how they counted our cases, and then they went back to the other procedure. So it looks like we had a bunch of cases in 2013, and then it dropped in 14. Actually, what happened was they changed their methodology of how they counted a case. So from 2014, you can see, for the circuit at least, and for all of them, there's a gradual increase each year. Right now, the numbers that I've received in the circuit were 100 cases ahead of where we were last year at this time. General district, they say, is 270 cases over, and juvenile apparently is 200 cases beyond where they were last year. So those are just preliminary numbers that they could give me from the state. And these just come out of our state system. And then I'm going to close on a few photos for you to consider. I just wanted you to see our Stafford courtroom versus the city of Fredericksburg and Spotsylvania. Also Hanover, which is opening in 2017, which you can see there on the upper far right corner. Our hallways, which remain pretty crowded, versus, and I realize there's nobody in the Isle of Wight, but they have very wide hallways that open out into open areas for people to wait and to have some space. You know, it's nice to have, even if you're not in juvenile, to have people have separation. So I want to thank you today for your consideration on behalf of the Circuit, General District, Juvenile and Domestic Relations judges, clerks, and staff, and also the citizens of Stafford who deserve a courthouse that'll meet their needs. Thank you so much. At the end is an article on the Hanover, which you can read about that later, but that was just the Hanover release. All right? I don't know how to turn it off, but okay, good. Thank you.
Your question, Mr. Cavalier?
Judge Wilson, I know you listed a lot of issues, but the one thing that I think we could probably address quickly and make the fix even in the current confines of your space is the video technology issue. I don't think we need a new building for that. That can be done within the existing building. And our new director of technology is
Somebody
here
raised his
now.
hand. All right.
I think maybe you should talk to him,
I will.
and
I will definitely do that. That's great. Thank
we
you
could get
so
the
much.
ball rolling on that one at least.
That would be excellent. That would be very much appreciated. Thank you. Are there any other questions? I didn't mean to scoot off.
All right, actually.
Ms. Moore?
And for the director of technology, look at the tube system.
Oh.
Simple scanning might suffice.
I would appreciate it. This is over my head. That tube runs all day. So thank you. Anything else?
Okay,
All right.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
At this time, we'll have presentations by the public. Anyone in the chambers wishing to address the board will have an opportunity to do so. When you come to the podium, please state your name and address for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes to speak. Do we have anyone in the chambers wishing to address the board? Mr. Trimmer, welcome.
Thank you. Glenn Trimmer, I am at 65 Marlboro Point Road, and happy to see you a second time in the day. I went home and I saw something I just thought I needed to come back on. I saw on your agenda that you're going to discuss a resolution to authorize the county administrator to execute renewal of regional tourism marketing agreement, and I just had a few things that I hope you'll take into consideration as you're having your debate, because I'm not sure how deeply you guys actually went into the websites there and the illustrations. First thing, just a technicality, your background report says it's $175,000 a year, or $174,000. Yours says it's $175,000, but if you look at the agreement, it's actually $171,000 each year. So somewhere there's a $4,000 disconnect there. But what I'm really concerned about is the page 1 of that document that describes the whole agreement talks about a, quote, robust regional website, www.visitfredericksburg.com. And goes on to talk about how they've hired this big company and that, all these 3 communities paying $171,000 a year fund it. I looked at that robust website. In particular, my area is Civil War history. You might have heard that. And just listen to this list of names, because everybody's paying equal shares here, even though the name of this website is, if you look at the heading, it's Fredericksburg Timeless. But in this 3-way agreement, under Civil War historic sites, and see if you pick up a trend here, here's what's listed: Chancellorsville Battlefield, Chatham, Christ Episcopal Church, Fredericksburg and Spotsylvania County National Military Park, Fredericksburg Area Museum and Cultural Center, Fredericksburg Battlefield, Fredericksburg Confederate Cemetery, Old Salem Church, and Spotsylvania Courthouse. There's almost nothing in there for Stafford. Civil War Park's been open for 3 years. John Hennessy has said twice, and believe me, if you want the tape, I can bring it, that Stafford Civil War Park is indeed probably unique in the entire United States in that it preserves the most encampment remains, physical encampment remains that can be seen anywhere. There's no mention of that park on that website anywhere. There's only one place in Fredericksburg, and that's Chatham. Only one. The White Oak Museum, a number of years ago, was given a great award by the Civil War Trust for the best small market Civil War museum in the country. It's not there. Aquia Landing is not there. Look, you know, I've wondered a long time about whether brochures for the Stafford sites are actually given out at the Fredericksburg Center.
I need you to wrap it up, Mr. Trimmer.
Okay. In my wrapping it up, I hope you will wrap it up by having a serious discussion of what you're getting for your money and putting a more regional focus on this effort to include in the namings of the websites and things, because it's not.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Anyone else in the chambers wish to address the board? Okay. Seeing none, we'll move on to committee reports by board members.
Ms. Bomke?
Yes, thank you. Just a congratulations to Matt Havern from Troop 516 from out of Andrew Chapel Church. He received his Eagle Scout Award, and he's heading off to Coastal Carolina to pursue his studies. So congratulations to Matt. I attended the Rappahannock River Commission meeting, which was out in lovely Tappahannock last week. And we had a very interesting speaker from Bevan's Oyster Company. And I've been learning a lot about oysters in the Chesapeake Bay by being on this. And I just have to say that based on the Chesapeake Bay best managing practices, they're definitely paying dividends, because the Commonwealth continues to be #1 in the 2014-15 production of 640,000 bushels of healthy oysters. And we are the envy of the nation, believe it or not. So I have to say the success is attributed to the Chesapeake Bay Watershed Implementation Plan and the term we've all heard, TMDL, Total Maximum Daily Load. So that was all good news. Also, I attended with Chairman Thomas, in spite of the rain, the Little Ferry Farm event of the lowering and raising of the flag that flew over the nation's capital on 4th of July out at our boyhood home. And Congressman Rob Whitman was there and actually did a really nice job just talking about what our independence really means. And in light of everything going on in the world, it was very touching. Also, just wanted to say that the boyhood home is under construction, and it should have a roof by the middle of November. So if you want more information on that, you could go to Ferry Farms Kenmore Foundation website. There's a ribbon cutting this coming Saturday in my district for Steampunk Parlor. They offer nail, hair, and massage services, and the owners actually grew up in South Stafford. And so if you're interested in coming out for some festivities, it's on White Oak Road this coming Saturday at 11. I want to bring something to everybody's attention, and this is regarding the potential for the CSX project, the high-speed rail from Richmond to D.C. There's an organization in Spotsylvania that's being put together to fight the Eastern Bypass proposal. If you haven't heard, for those people, the bypass that they're looking at out in the Ferry Farm area could actually bring 14 to 18 more trains daily to that area. It actually runs right behind where I live in Clearview Heights, and people are very concerned about the vibration of the trains. There is a meeting this coming Monday, July 11th at 6:30 at the Fredericksburg Christian School. If you are interested in that, and this is the first time DRPT's actually had a meeting right here in the Fredericksburg area. And then there was some very exciting news from the governor yesterday regarding Virginia's Atlantic Gateway project, and I'll let maybe Paul report on that. Thank you.
Mr. Cavalier?
Just a few short things. I attended HOA meetings at both Widewater Village and Aquia Harbor, and attended the grand reopening of Cannon Ridge Golf Course down in South Stafford with Ms. Maurer. And that's all. Thanks.
Mrs. Maurer?
Well, we had our Community and Economic Development Committee meeting today, and happy to say that we're going to get some Civil War Park signage, both on the freeway and leading to the Civil War Park. That Civil War Park is pretty amazing, and it should get quite a bit more attention now that we have this signage that's going to be on the freeway. Also discussed some changes in requirements for solicitors and changes in sign removal, our sign removal agreement with VDOT. We're getting a lot of feedback from constituents on just the amount of signs that are almost equating to trash along our roadways. So we're look forward to some changes regarding signs and some more enforcement on when those are being picked up. Additionally, we had the Tech and Research Park Board meeting yesterday. We are well on our way to hiring a tech park director. We've received several applications. We've whittled it down to 4 that will be interviewed. And in addition to that, an office manager. They did some interviews yesterday for an office manager. And this is all in anticipation of opening the incubation center. We're also going back and renegotiating some of the agreements that we had for the incubator space. And very excited to see that launched. In addition to that, I attended the telecommunications contract negotiation meeting. That's it's contentious, but I will tell you, Paul, your representative on the Telecommunications Commission is very good, and I'm happy to report that he's leading the charge. He's calm, he's measured, and if we have a successful contract negotiation, it will be because of him. Also attended the Cannon Ridge ribbon cutting, as Jack had mentioned, and also attended and was honored to be the keynote speaker for the Rock Hill Volunteer Fire Department 40-year anniversary. And they have been supporting Stafford County for 40 years. It was a lively event, wonderful people, a lot of awards, and one of the little tidbits I got out of that was how their first pumper truck had no radio in it, and so they used to throw out flour sacks. Now keep in mind, this is in 1978. It wasn't that long ago. We're not talking about the 20s. And so they would throw out flour sacks so the other fire trucks could follow along. And, Hansel and Gretel's probably a little jealous that they had a more sustainable trail making process, but still, it was a lot of fun, and I want to congratulate the Rock Hill Volunteer Fire Department. They still have one volunteer that has been there since its inception, so congratulations to Don Mills, who was honored that night for his 40 years of service as a volunteer firefighter. And then finally, we had a community meeting with Lynn Haven Lane. They're on a gravel road, and those members along that gravel road have gotten together and want to look at getting it paved. So they are willing to contribute and pay for it themselves, and so they are gathered together, and hopefully, Keith's not here today to give me an update on how many people responded as far as, confirming that they want to go ahead and chip in and pave that road. But I will say Keith did a fantastic job. And he was informative. He was just very sensitive to all the different people in the room. And I really want to thank him for his support in that community meeting. There was a lot of work that went into that. And that's all I have.
Mr. Milday?
Thanks. That's Brian Roinstad, and I am very pleased with him on that board. He's great with constituents as well. And there's plenty of people out of my district who complain about not having internet service, and unfortunately none of them can hear me or see me right now. Reverend Lacey from our United Christian Faith Ministries was ordained as a bishop in Dale City a weekend or so ago, and I went and saw that. It was amazing. It was just a great, huge crowd at the Hilton Christian Center off of Gideon. But that was one of the highlights of my last couple of weeks. On a sadder note, Ben Blankenship's funeral took place, and Ben Blankenship was such a good friend of North Stafford, and particularly the Kauai Harbor. And he lost his wife Carol a few years ago, and they were just good friends. And I'm sad to see him go. He had a heck of a life. We buried him in his college sweatshirt of Texas. We had a meeting of the sign committee. Laura and I, and that is, we made a lot of progress, but we're not finished with that. There's sign ordinance details are not all that interesting, and they are certainly plentiful. But I think we'll be able to report back maybe in a meeting or so on some progress on what we want to do with our sign ordinances in Stafford County. Of course, earlier today we had an infrastructure meeting, and the agenda is available online for that. And most of the members were there, if not all. But a couple of the things that we talked about that were significant are our HB2 or smart scale priorities for the county, and that's a lot of these things end up on the agenda further along. Also, the water and sewer projects that Stafford County is spending a lot of money to build. The three really areas are heading towards Boswell's Corner, around the hospital, and then the Centerport Parkway area. They're all underserved, and those are all within a couple of 2 or 3 years will be online and serve very well and helping us with economic development. The fast lane application, I mean, everyone, of course, you'd have to be not looking outside of your windows or reading anything to know that we got approved with a $165 million federal grant that the McAuliffe administration pushed for successfully, and we have made so much progress, Stafford County, on interstate transportation issues in the last year, and you can't imagine making more. And this started with this board really raising Cane. The Chamber of Commerce was right there with us, and got everyone involved that would listen, and they still are. We spent $280,000 of our own money to initiate a study. We just really pushed them and prodded them, and obviously this governor and his administration were listening, and we now have a plan to basically. Looks like with the HB2 submission that I think we'll approve later today, that'll be the last piece. That'll be this northbound Rappahannock River 17, Associated 17, and interstate interchange improvements. We'll have a hot lanes all the way to the river, new lanes across the river, new interchanges at 17, a new courthouse road interchange, and a whole lot of other small projects. So we are doing very well when it comes to transportation. I hope I covered that adequately. And the last thing is, I didn't understand if Glenn Trimmer was wanting. Is there something on this agenda that's associated with? Yes. Which item would that be? Because I can't seem to.
Number 28.
Okay, good. So it's nothing to be pulled from the consent agenda.
Correct.
All right, and those are my comments, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Ms. Sellers?
A couple of weeks ago, there was a letter to the editor in the paper that addressed some ADA concerns that were at the Jeff Rouse Center. And last week, myself, Kathy Volbrick, Keith Dayton, and Anthony Toigo met with that family. I think it's important to let the board know, but also let the community know that we are addressing the concerns that were brought up in that letter to the editor, and there's not really enough ways we can apologize for it. And we are taking steps to make sure that ADA compliance is at the top of the list, so that we do know before we open up a facility, and then we're told after the fact. And just wanted to let the board know that we are working with this family at the Jeff Rouse Center. And moving forward, that is going to be something that I'm going to start focusing on a little bit more and asking those questions so we don't get in this situation again. Thank you.
Mr. Snellings?
I'll defer.
Mr. Thomas?
Thank you. The only additional item I didn't hear yet, I had a VACO Finance Steering Committee. A lot of the focus this year seems to be focused on getting parity between cities and counties being able to levy certain taxes that cities can do and counties can't. Since we have not discussed that, I kept my participation to listening only, but I will let you know if that gets traction and if it becomes a platform for VACO this year. I'm sure we will all be hearing more about that. And the last thing, I just wanted to thank Kathy Volbrecht for inviting me out to kick off the first band at the July 4th celebration. At the time I got there weren't a whole lot of citizens there yet because they were trying to stay dry, but as I looked across the park, we had a ton of our staff there just doing everything they needed to. Nobody was complaining. They were all out there. They were doing the Team Stafford thing. And in my remarks, I kind of flippantly referred to them as the best Parks and Rec and Community Facilities Department in the state. But I truly do, we do mean that. Parks and Rec is one of those things that touches an awful lot of our citizens. And the fact that I almost never, ever hear a complaint about it means that everybody who's out there is doing a good job, and the quality is very high. So in addition to everything we heard earlier, I wanted to thank you for that and congratulate your department on a successful July 4th. It was the first time I saw fireworks and clouds. It was interesting. But those people who did see them appreciated that we still did the show. So thank you very much. Next, we'll have a report of the county attorney.
Defer any comments, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have the report of the county administrator.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I'd mention that tomorrow night at 6 o'clock at North Stafford High School, the Fire and Rescue Department is having a graduation for volunteers. We have 32 graduates, 14 from this year's Fire Academy, 8 from the Spring 2016 EMT Academy or Emergency Medical Technician Academy, and then 10 from the fall of 2015 Academy. And these fine men and women will be working throughout the county as part of our volunteer fire and rescue cadre. So that's 6 o'clock tomorrow at North Stafford High School. I have no additions or deletions to the agenda. Mr. Chairman, that concludes my report.
Thank you very much. Okay, since there's no additions and deletions, we will move on to the consent agenda. Any items that need to be pulled from consent?
Mr. Chairman, number 10, please.
Okay, we have number 10.
You know, I'm going to pull 8. I hate to do that just so I can be consistent.
Okay.
And vote against it.
8 and 10. Any other items? Okay, so I have a motion from Ms. Sellers for approval of the consent agenda minus items 8 and 10. Do I have a second? Second by Ms. Mauer. Please cast your votes. Tally the votes. That motion passes 7-0. Item number 8.
Yes, I'm not going to support it, so I'll let someone else move it in.
I'll make the motion to
Second.
approve.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion on item number 8?
I just want to say this is a great addition, regardless of what Mr. Milday is going to say. I've said it multiple times sitting up here, but where the fields have come from 15 years ago, again, I know you guys have heard of where home field advantage was knowing where the potholes were, to now where we've come is quite amazing. It's a great thing.
And I'm sorry, I should clarify for the public. We are talking about authorizing phase 3 of the athletic fields at Embry Mill Park. Sorry about that.
You're taunting me. I didn't want to discuss it. I was going to say I'd already commented on this, so I'll leave it at that. Only to say that we're along. It looks better than the courthouse. Let me just put it that way. Out there, it's at Embry Mill. You have great fields, and we don't. And these are two extra fields that we were talking about, not the original projects.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay. Please cast your votes. Tally the vote. The motion passes 6-0. Next, we have item number 10. I'm sorry, it was 6-1. Okay, who pulled item number 10? Please.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the table.
And then
Discussion.
The reason I pulled this off is, number one, I wanted to thank everyone in staff for really working together to get these 4 roads on Lake Arrowhead paved. This is the end of a very long road for Lake Arrowhead. This service district was done more than 20 years ago. And I also want to make note that Claudia Wright in the Department of Utilities, when she originally asked, she's one of the homeowners that lives on one of these roads, asked it to be paved as part of this service district that was done 20 years ago. And when we went back and forth on where the money was coming from, she actually brought my attention to the CAFA report where this $500,000 was sitting. And so I want to thank her, and I also want to thank staff, and I move to approve.
Okay, and for the record, the second was by Ms. Sellers. Mr. Milday?
And since this is open for discussion, this did come through committee. We talked about it at length in our subcommittee.
Okay, any other comments? Okay, please cast your votes. Tally the vote. Motion passes 7-0. Next, we have unfinished business. Item number 25, Public Works, designate projects for the 2016 Smart Scale, formerly HB2 application.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Christopher Rapp, Public Works Director. Today there's a resolution on your in your packet for proposed application submittals for the Smart Scale, formerly known as HB2. A brief background. Last year, the county submitted applications and did quite well, and now we're at round 2. Applications can be submitted from August 1st through September 30th. As applications come in, they're judged against meeting a need in the V-Trans plan, and then they're scored based on 6 weighted factors. Last year, Stafford received about $13.4 million for 3 road projects. VDOT helped considerably prepare the applications along with staff, and we did quite well. There were additional projects of regional significance, the southbound Rappahannock River crossing and the expansion of a commuter lot that'll be relocated at exit 140. There's 2 categories of funding, high priority and then the district grant program. High priority programs or projects are they compete statewide for funding, whereas the district grant competes within the Fredericksburg district. And staff has prepared a 3 list of projects. This is similar to what we presented last year. The format, in any case, the projects are different. The first list, and this is in your resolution for consideration. This is for Stafford County submittals for both the high priority and district grant funding. The Enon Road project that is under design, but there's a lack of funds at the moment. Route 1 Eskimo Hill Road, American Legion Road intersection, Butler Road widening, and the Decatur Road reconstruction. The next list is proposed projects to ask FAMPO to submit for the high priority program. That would be the I-95 northbound Rappahannock River crossing. The number 2, the reversible express lane extension, which appeared to be funded by the Atlantic Gateway grant yesterday. The second part of that, however, it's not clear that that was funded, and that's the direct connection from Route 610 to the express lane. And then number 3 is reversible express lane extensions from exit 130 to 126.
Mr. Milday.
While we're here, I just want to explain, this is an interesting, most of you may have seen it, but when he says direct connection, he means like one of the ramps that comes up in the middle of the highway, and you turn left or right onto the bridge. It would be a wonderful access point from the from 610 to the express lanes.
And then the third list, again, this format is similar to last year. Projects, proposed projects that we would ask GWRC, George Washington Regional Commission, to apply for under the high priority program. The 3 projects are the VRE station improvements for Burke and Leland Road stations. This was on last year's applications, and it was not funded, so this would be a second submittal for this one. And then the new Leland Station VRE parking lot expansion, and a new park and ride commuter lot off of Kings Highway that would serve commuters going to Dahlgren. There is somewhat of a timeline. As I mentioned, applications can be submitted from August 1st to September 30th. However, VDOT has requested a list of projects by August 15th. so they can provide some critical technical assistance on the application. Also, FAMPO has a policy committee meeting next, or July 18th, where they'll be discussing potential projects. And next Monday, there's a VDOT workshop that they'll be discussing the smart scale as well. They held one last year, and they'll have another one this year that's similar. And like I said, Resolution R16-217 has been provided for your consideration. I'll be glad to take any questions at this time.
Do you have any questions? Okay. Yep. Entertain a motion.
I'll move approval.
Okay. We have a motion for R16-217 by Ms. Sellers and seconded by Ms. Bomke. Do we have any further discussion? Okay, good. Please cast your votes. Tally the vote. That motion passes 7-0. Next, we have item number 26, County Attorney, discuss amendments to the board's bylaws. As you recall at the last meeting, Ms. Bomke reported our committee meeting, and our goal was to have a draft in front of you to take over the summer break, kind of read. Some of this is new, such as sections on what defines new business. Some of the things that we've kind of just had a operating understanding, but we're trying to get some of this stuff down on paper. I think you had an email today earlier from Mr. Snellings, who had recommended one change and he would like to withdraw that. So it's probably a good way over the next 2 or 3 weeks while you're on vacation, if you could funnel that information back to us. We'll get a good final draft, and then as soon as we get back from summer break, hopefully we can enact some of these, because some of them, like the committees being 2 years for chairman, we really have already put that in place, and we really do need to go ahead and adopt that before January comes. So, Ms. Bomke, did you have anything to add to that?
No.
Mr. Snellings, please.
I'm a little concerned about requiring the clerk to take minutes of all these meetings. I think that's going to be a difficult task. I do agree we need some minutes, but I know that the planning department uses these microphones that record everything. When they have those meetings, we may want to consider doing that. Because what would we have, 6 committees? 5? How many do we have?
There's a lot.
I mean, that's going to bog them down.
I believe that's how the ARB does it. At least when I've attended.
Yeah, they have these
record.
microphones that are portable, and
Yeah.
they record right into them.
And as far as from a legal standpoint, because none of the committees have 4, it's not a majority of this board. We're not required to, so this would be above the requirements for FOIA. So
It would be, but I think it's something we need to do.
okay, so we'll take that under consideration, that maybe those minutes are more of a audio in nature, and then any members or the public, they can request ARB audio minutes. Okay. Any other ones that off the bat we need to think about, or? Okay, good. So we will have more to follow on that, and we'll look forward to your continued input on that draft. Next, we have item number 27 under new business, authorized financing for the Rappahannock Regional Landfill.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I'm Maria Peratt, Chief Financial Officer. With the completion of the new landfill cell and the passage of flow control, the regional landfill's long-term financial outlook is stable and positive. And while there's approximately $6 million in cash reserves, there also are significant long-term liabilities associated with cell closure and post-closure costs that results in having negative unrestricted net assets. The liabilities represent future costs in accordance with regulations by the Department of Environmental Quality regarding permanently capping and monitoring closed landfill cells. The R Board has 3 cells that need to be closed and capped, and at an estimated cost of about $3 million. Rather than use half of its cash reserves, the $6 million I referred to, for this purpose, the R Board is proposing that it fund $1 million or a third of it with its cash, and then request loans from the city and the county for the other $2 million, with the city and the county each bearing about $1 million. Additionally, the R Board is planning to replace a bulldozer at an estimated cost of just under $300,000, and have determined that financing this equipment would be favorable to them on financially, and they're seeking a loan from the city and the county for that as well. The city has considered this matter and is scheduled to act on the request at its next council meeting. The county could fund its portion of the loans from the Capital Projects Reserve with a loan over 7 years and interest rate of about 1.5%. That would be more than the county is presently earning on its cash. Resolution R-16-219 authorizes the use of county funds for this purpose, and staff does recommend approval, although this is new business and no action is required today. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, do we have any questions? Okay, great. We will hopefully take this up at our next meeting for approval. Next, we have item number 28, economic development. Authorize the county administrator to execute or re-execute a regional tourism marketing agreement.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Lisa Logan, who's the county's tourism manager, will be giving you an overview of the contract that's in front of the board for approval today.
Yeah, this one is time sensitive, so if it's the desire of the board, we will entertain a motion on this one.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. Like Mr. Romanelli said, I'm Lisa Logan, the Tourism Manager of Economic Development and Tourism. We're here today to discuss the renewal of the Greater Regional Fredericksburg Regional Tourism Agreement. The goal of this agreement is to increase the travel sales tax that we receive from the hotel revenue tax. And the partnership began in 1994 with Stafford and Fredericksburg, and then Spotsylvania joined in 1999. In 2005, the first regional tourism marketing agreement was signed, and the most recent agreement was in 2013 and expired on June 30th, 2016. In that agreement, we would give $175,000 each of the 3 localities towards the marketing of the region. We have bi-weekly meetings to discuss the future marketing, the current marketing, and any financial decisions that need to be made for the region. In your packet, you have the Smith Travel Report, which shows the hotel the revenues and the occupancy for each locality. You also have 2 recent blog posts from the website and a financial statement from Fredericksburg showing where that money is going. I'm happy to answer any of the questions about those attachments. The joint effort provides cost-effective marketing outreach that benefits the localities and all the visitors to the area. Fredericksburg and Spotsylvania approved the proposed MOU on June 28th, and our staff recommends approval of our proposed resolution R-16-193 today. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Mr. Milby.
I think this is the item that Glenn.
Yes.
So how do we address those issues?
I think the first question would probably be how can we get the website to address the fact that there's a small amount of Stafford County assets on there.
Right.
Almost none.
And I have been working on that since taking over this position in January. I have been actively participating in the bi-weekly meetings and discussing how can we make this more of a region. You know, my explanation, if it says Fredericksburg, it should say Fredericksburg region at the bare minimum. But there should be, I've been working with Spotsylvania and Fredericksburg to increase our presence. I do have Aquia Landing, White Oak, and Stafford Civil War Park are represented on the website under different localities in alphabetical order. I did go pull that real quickly just to make sure that I knew what I was talking about. So they are on there, and we are working to increase every week. I'm working to increase our presence.
Well, did Mr. Trimmer say that it was maybe under the Civil War battlefields or Civil War heading?
Okay.
Why don't you?
It's listed under 1 or 2 areas, but there are many more areas that it could be, and I am actively working on that.
And I'm assuming that's a representative. Maybe that problem might repeat itself in other areas. It's not uncommon. I mean, Fredericksburg always seems to dominate by name at least, most of the regional things we do. But this is time sensitive. We have no choice. It's no agreement.
I don't know about that, Mr. Romanel.
You have choice. The agreement runs with the fiscal year. The city and Spotsylvania have acted on it. So we do recommend that we move forward. I think Mrs. Bomke had raised some similar issues to the ones that Mr. Trimmer had raised, and Ms. Logan has been working on those, and we hear those loud and clear. We are particularly mindful of the city's emphasis on this, given new leadership over there, and we want to make sure that Stafford continues to get its fair share, at least a third of that. So I think the concerns are duly noted. This is a regional partnership, and I think my recommendation would be that we move forward today and certainly bring back something to the board periodically so that we can ensure that we're getting our value for our money.
Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Bomke.
Sorry. I guess I have to, I raised some of these concerns, as Mr. Romanello said 2 weeks ago when we deferred or pulled the item from the agenda. I agree with the one constituent that spoke that I feel like we are not getting our bang for our buck. If you go in and look at the website, it's woefully inadequate as far as Stafford County is concerned. There are references on here, and this doesn't have to do with your staff report, I'm sorry, and this is not to you, Lisa, because I know you're doing everything that you possibly can. But there are references to school plays that were from back in March. You know, I have to be very honest. I don't think it's a very robust website. Some of the things regarding Gary Melchers, there was nothing there to pull me in to want to read more about it. And so I don't think we're getting our bang for our buck. And I feel like the only way that we can maybe make these changes is maybe not agree at this point in time. So, I mean, I can't support it the way everything is written right now, because I don't feel that we're paying a third and we are not getting a third. And I understand you're trying to make changes as best you can, but the only leverage that we have is with money.
Mr. Snellings?
I don't disagree with Ms. Baumke. I do know, let's be realistic here. If you're living in California and you want to take a vacation to the East Coast, you're not going to Google Stafford County. It's just not going to happen. I mean, Fredericksburg is the draw. I mean, Fredericksburg is everywhere. But I do feel, I agree with Ms. Baumke and others, that we do need to get a little bit more bang for our buck, and I think Lisa's doing a good job trying to do that. What I might suggest, Mr. Chairman, if you would entertain it, is that we fund 50% and come back in 6 months. And if they have improved the website to our liking, fund the rest of it. And I'll put that in the form of a motion.
Okay, second by Ms. Baumke. Mr. Romanello, that sounds workable?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so that's the motion on the table, and we'd like to discuss this motion. Ms. Mauer?
One question is: our 171,000 that we're contributing and everybody else contributing, comes to roughly just under 600,000. Is that just for a website?
No, ma'am. If you look in the package, there's a breakdown from Fredericksburg that shows the different amounts of money and where they go each year. And the 175, just to clarify, 171,000 goes directly to the regional tourism, and then each locality, per item 9 of the MOU, puts 4,000 towards a blogger that does writes blogs for the website, which is, so it totals 175,000, but 4,000 of that is a separate line item in the MOU.
So $16,000 a year we're paying for a blogger?
Each locality pays 4, so 12,000 a year.
12,000 a year.
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, my math's off. My
Yes, ma'am.
apologies.
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
Okay, any other questions? So, Mr. Cavalier?
Several years ago, and I can't remember exactly, but I did confirm with my colleague Gary over here, and he remembers it like I do, so both of us hopefully aren't wrong. But we did make a conscious decision as a board here in Stafford that we recognized Fredericksburg as the tourism draw. I mean, that's the name that people associate with when they come to this area for those kind of events, and that we would, kind of take a back seat approach there. But I do see that we do need to step things up. Mr. Trimmer was exactly right that we need to identify that Civil War Park, especially, and we can do more. I think that the amount of money we're paying for this particular effort, it does seem like we're not really taking a second seat with the financing. So if we're going to be in the front seat, we need to get the same kind of results. And so here's where we need to draw the line, and hopefully we step things up a little bit more. But I think we have to realize that Fredericksburg is the key draw. We're going to be hopefully reaping benefits of people going there, and they also visit Stafford.
Okay, Ms. Mauer?
One more question. This agreement that we're agreeing to, it says it's for 3 years. So do you come back for appropriation in year 2 and year 3?
the appropriation, ma'am, is part of the budget process. This agreement, this would authorize, today's action would authorize the execution of the agreement, but we do come back annually for the appropriation. I think you raise a good question in terms of we are asking for, going back to Mr. Snelling's motion, we are asking the board to execute the renewal of the agreement, which is a little different from the money. So I think that what we might want to say is that the board is directing that we not spend more than half the money in the current year, and that we bring back a report to show progress by the end of the calendar year.
Well, and one of my concerns is, Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, is that, so we're executing a 3-year agreement, or what we're voting on is to extend this agreement for 3 years. And my concern is we're only appropriating half of the dollars. Do we want to renew the agreement for 3 years, or do we want to reevaluate the agreement in 6 months?
Well,
Ms. Bobke?
yeah, I think it's important we need to all look at Section 10 of the agreement, because if we opt out of this agreement, we have to come up with, I think it's a total of $50,000, yes, that we will be responsible for the reimbursement of the cost of changes to marketing materials, including the tourism website, printed materials. So basically, we've got to come up with $50,000 if we pull out, because they've got to reprint, rebrand everything. So, but I agree with you. I think maybe a 1-year agreement, I don't know how we work this.
Yeah, I'm not comfortable with the way this agreement is written, especially with this pull-out clause, because if you look at the branding, the only branding we have is a little tiny Stafford up in the upper left-hand corner, whereas Fredericksburg's all over. And which I agree, Fredericksburg is the draw. I get that. But with what Mr. Smelling's amended motion is, and what this agreement says, there's a disconnect that I'm concerned about.
Okay. Mr. Schumate?
Mr. Chairman, in light of what the board has discussed, let me suggest, unless someone tells me there's an overriding concern about the sensitivity time-wise, can we kick this over to the 16th? Because we have, as everyone said, we have one agreement that provides for a 3-year program. We're not going to fund it. So if we go back and we want to sign this, we're going to have some problems. So maybe if we just put this on hold, work through it between now and the 16th, maybe we can come up with a resolution, bring it back to the board.
Okay, and that'll give us time to confer with the other
If that, yes. And in fact,
the other
Mr.
administrators.
Romanella agrees with that. Unless you have any sensitivity to getting it done today.
It's awkward. I mean, it's a regional agreement. Our other two partners have executed it, and we're moving forward. 6 weeks is a long time, but I can't sit here and tell you. I mean, it's your decision. It's the board's decision. I think moving forward with some limited allocation of funds, even though you're executing the agreement, it's any agreement the board executes is subject to appropriation and allocation of funds. So you're not committing the county financially. But I can't argue with Mr. Schumate. I mean, it's a tourism agreement. It's not life and death. So if it's we can certainly work on these issues and bring something back in 6 weeks.
I don't like to see the board sign an agreement that they can't fund.
Exactly.
I mean, you're not fulfilling the financial terms of the agreement. And I think you're going to have some pushback, and you're going to have some difficulties, and we're going to have to deal with them. I certainly appreciate what Anthony's saying, but I think that's the two perspectives that we provide to you. You've got a legitimate concern and a way that you want to handle it, but in the process of handling it, I think you're going to fly in the face of the drafted language that you have before you.
Okay, I have Mr. Milday and then Mr. Snellings.
Well, first, I mean, we have a high level of trust, rightfully so, with Fredericksburg for sure. So at least on that side of the equation, I'm comfortable we can work out these problems without having to do anything that's going to maybe be received the wrong way. That's what would concern me the most, is sending some kind of a message that we're being difficult. And I say that because we work so hard on these, because a lot of us sit on these other committees, our board, FAMPO, GWRC, where we all work, we work with these guys all the time. So is there another way where you could administratively we can give the authorization once certain assurances are had or in hand, so that this can get done after this meeting but before the next meeting? And that puts it, and I know that puts it back on you, but and, not to mention, you're right, Tim's there too.
Okay, so
But Tim only
Yes.
has.
Mr. Snowy's was next.
Mr. Chairman, in light of the county attorney's remarks, I withdraw my motion.
Okay, the motion has been withdrawn. Ms. Sellers?
Well, I agree with you, Paul, on the city, but Spotsylvania never has a problem not paying for their regional share of things. They pull out all the time.
They pulled out of this before.
They've pulled out of this. They've pulled out of funding GWRC. I mean, it's always a battle with Spotsylvania. So I agree with the city of Fredericksburg, but as far as Spotsylvania is concerned, they're not always reliable.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
I'd
please.
rather wait.
One way to do this would be for the board to authorize allocation of 2 months' worth of funding so that we can continue to move forward, bring something back in August, so July and August. We'll divide 171 by 6. So roughly $30,000. Direct me to do that and defer action on the agreement and bring the agreement back in August.
So the 2 months of funding would basically be a good faith gesture to our partners that we're not necessarily looking to pull out of it, but we have some concerns that need to be addressed, and we would come back in 2 months and then potentially.
So moved. Oh, I'm sorry.
I'll move for approval, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
All right,
Yep,
second.
yep. We have a motion. Ms. Sellers seconded that. Any discussion on this new motion?
Yes.
Ms. Bumke?
Yeah, I would also like to see the budget of what we're actually paying for. That's a little bit more, was it all in here? I didn't think it was that specific.
I'm looking for it. It's the last page of this item. It's page 269.
Okay.
There's some major categories, and then it's actually broken down into what that means. And it's not just a website. It's for the audience's perspective. It's postage, printing.
Oh,
and
right.
binding, a lot of
Okay, I forgot. Yeah, I did see
advertisements,
that.
yeah,
Okay.
Conventions that they attend, visitors accommodations, memberships that they belong to.
Right. Okay.
There's a lot more than just the website.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So we have the motion. Any further discussion on this motion? Very good motion, Mr. County Administrator. Thank you. Please cast your votes. Tally the votes. Okay, the motion passes 7-0.
Okay.
I'll entertain a motion for closed meeting.
Whereas the board desires to hold a closed meeting for one, consultation with legal counsel pertaining to probable litigation where such consultation or briefing in open meeting would adversely affect the negotiating or litigating posture of the public body. 2, discussion concerning a prospective business where no previous announcement has been made of the business's interest in locating its facilities in the county. 3, discussion concerning a prospective business or industry where no previous announcement has been made of the business or industry's interest in locating its facilities in the county. 4, discussion of consideration of the disposition of publicly held real property where discussion in an open meeting would adversely affect the bargaining position of negotiating strategy of the public body. 5, consultation with the legal counsel employed by the board regarding specific legal matters requiring the provision of legal advice by such counsel. And 6, discussion of the county administrator's performance evaluation.
Okay, do we have a second? Second by Ms. Sellers. Please cast your votes. Tally the votes. Motion passes 7-0. Board will now convene in closed session.
Data Center and Technology Park in Stafford at Widewater, known today as Widewater Technology Park. In concert with the staff economic development team, went into this project with a specific intent to draw the eyes of REITs, real estate investment trusts, and megawatt industry partners to Stafford, making Stafford the next stop in the Northern Virginia data center community. Widely available data demonstrates other counties like Loudoun have supported data center development and have benefited significantly with a secure tax base that requires little infrastructure. We estimate the proposed development of 300,000 square feet of data center space at Widewater would mean approximately $1.2 million in tax revenue to the county each year. The fundamental requirements, power and fiber, are here. If you had the opportunity to lure companies like Google, Amazon, Facebook, or Iron Mountain to Stafford, Virginia, would you like to engage them? 2 of these companies have requested site plans for the property at Widewater. We have their interest. These companies will expand their footprint in Northern Virginia. We want that to be Stafford. Why not Stafford? We respectfully ask the board to consider returning this property to the urban services area, directing planning staff to assist in developing a narrative exception to get this property into the comprehensive plan so that we might continue efforts towards rezoning this to an industrial property and continue to investigate options for developing infrastructure to support the site. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name's Damian Whittam. I'm from Bethesda, Maryland. I'm a data center technologist, and I was asked to make a few comments about what data centers mean to a community like Stafford. If you've been tracking what the development in Northern Virginia has looked like, the Ashburn market is pretty oversaturated, and so the markets are starting to move and they're starting to shift. And if you pay attention to the way that the economy is changing over the last few years and how it's going to continue to change with software-defined capabilities, applications that are growing, mobility, and things along those lines, you'll find that a data center in your community would be a great benefit. So as the economy starts to transform, it may be to your advantage to get ahead of the curve. The other thing you may want to consider is that data centers make very good neighbors. They bring in a lot of businesses. They bring in a lot of companies that are looking to expand to them, and not to mention the government, both state, local, and federal. So based upon these things, as you give consideration to, as you rezone some properties, you give some consideration to what the advantages are to the expanding economy. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else wish to address the board? Not about the public hearing?
Ruth Carloni, 300 Mount Olive Road. In the Freelance Star the other day, it showed there was only 128 paid personnel in the EMS and fire rescue area. It's an outrage because we're estimated 142,000 population and 277 square miles to be covered. I'm sure you can find some money to go ahead and hire some. Another issue was school funds were recently taken away from the board to finance a transportation project. There was a referendum in 2008 for the Brook Road to upgrade. In the meantime, y'all have been collecting transportation funds from recordation fees, impact fees, and revenue from our 2% per gallon gasoline tax. There's something wrong here that you have to pull school funds regardless of what's going on. And also, just one more comment, let's be a little more gracious to each other. It's gotten kind of bad between the school board and the Board of Supervisors, and that's all. Okay.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, at this time we'll close presentations by the public and move to our public hearing for the evening. Planning and zoning, authorize proposed 2016 through 2036 comprehensive plan amendments. Mr. Zaraf.
If I can have the floor computer, please.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. Mike Zaraf with the Planning and Zoning Department. For your consideration this evening are amendments to the comprehensive plan centered around amending the land use recommendations associated with urban development areas and a new comprehensive plan 2016 to 2036 document. The amendments also serve as a 5-year update to the comprehensive plan. A comprehensive plan is arguably one of the most important documents in a locality as it shapes the future direction of a community as it relates to the physical development of the land. What I go over will be similar to what was presented at the last board meeting, but it is important to cover for the public that might be seeing this for the first time. The draft document would amend the existing Stafford County Comprehensive Plan 2010 to 2030 document. The format of the plan remains unchanged with the same chapters and general content. The draft document serving as a central comprehensive plan document with other plan elements referenced and remaining unchanged. Some of those other plan elements include the telecommunications plan, neighborhood development standards plan, we have an economic development strategic plan, just to name a few. The current 2010 to 2030 plan was adopted in December of 2010. The plan was based on and consistent with state code mandates that higher growth localities, including Stafford, designate urban development areas where at least 50% of future growth would be located in those areas. Also, specific development density standards in urban development areas were mandated as well. The process to amend urban development areas was initiated in 2012 following modifications in the state code that no longer mandated urban development areas be in the comprehensive plan. Since then, the Board of Supervisors and Planning Commission have been considering the issue during regular meetings, subcommittee work sessions, and special meetings as well. Information was exchanged between the board, with the board providing general direction and the Planning Commission developing general concepts. The latest draft was started in the fall of last year. The amendments were developed by a subcommittee of the Planning Commission and included 2 community outreach meetings and other opportunities for public comment at regular subcommittee meetings. Key changes that make up the framework of the plan are responsive to comments provided by the board at your February planning session. The next several slides provide a summary of the key amendments to the plan. As part of the new plan, the planning staff has estimated population projections based on the latest population estimates and county occupancy permit data, and also past trends. The table that you see on the screen compares the planning department projections to the previously utilized FAMPO data. The new population projections are used as a basis for accommodating future growth as well. The big difference you can see is that the plan under the planning department projection estimates and plans for 58,000 new residents over the next 20 years, as opposed to 93,000 new residents from the FAMPO projection. This would reduce the overall amount of residential development that needs to be accommodated for in the future land use plan. The bar graph that you see, that's included in Chapter 6 of the plan. It illustrates how staff developed the population projections. This shows past occupancy permit trends over the past 20 years under the red line. The past trends roughly resemble a bell curve. The graph includes future trends for the next 20 years under the green line. The future trends replicate past patterns of occupancy permit increases and decreases. There are slight differences in the future projections. Firstly, staff is not projecting the extreme highs and lows that were previously experienced, rather more gradual changes. Also, note that although staff is not projecting occupancy permit levels to fall below the most recent levels that we've experienced, our projection is still much lower than what was projected by FAMPO. Staff believes the total population increase is more realistic than the FAMPO projection. Some of the Planning Commission, in reviewing this, did express concern over this lower projection. Staff does point out that the next decennial census is 4 years away, so the accuracy of this projection can be measured at that time, and the plan can always be amended if the projections are determined to be off track. The lower population projections also reduce the overall amount of residential development that needs to be accommodated in the future land use plan. This table shows how the future estimated 20,840 dwelling units would be allocated throughout the county in the general land use districts. Note that future growth designated in the targeted growth areas is recommended to remain at 50% of total growth, as currently recommended in the urban development areas. Regarding amendments to the future land use map, the proposed deletion of the urban development area terminology and replacement with targeted growth areas was a widely accepted theme throughout the entirety of the amendment process. In an attempt to consolidate overlapping planning efforts and reduce confusion, a new planning area land use designation is being proposed. This district would incorporate the targeted growth areas, redevelopment areas, and priority focus areas into the new planning areas. These, the plan identifies which of these overlays apply to each planning area. On the old current map, there's been confusion in the past where redevelopment areas overlap with UDAs, and so this attempts to simplify that and make it a little bit more understandable. This slide provides the full view comparing the current future land use map on the left to the proposed map on the right. And on the next slides, a few slides, I will highlight some of the changes. This is a view of the courthouse planning area. Again, we have the current land use map on the left, the proposed map on the right. The cross-hatching represents planning areas that include targeted growth areas, or areas for targeted residential growth. Also note that the courthouse targeted growth area has expanded to the west of Interstate 95 along Courthouse Road and takes in portions of the former George Washington Village urban development area. There are planning areas that are not associated with targeted growth areas. Planning areas that are not hatched, not cross-hatched, are associated with economic development priority focus areas or economic development redevelopment areas. An example of this are the waterfront areas along Aquia Creek and the Potomac River. Looking at this area here, zooming in on that location. This slide highlights the Marina District, which is the blue blue circled area to the left, and this is a location where there's a cluster of 4 marinas, and the Widewater area, the blue highlighted area on the right, this is the location for the future Widewater State Park. These areas have been designated planning areas in response to the Economic Development Strategic Plan, which identifies these as locations that might provide opportunities for water-related businesses. This is a view of the plan, of the land use plan, that includes all 6 of the targeted growth areas, again, where 50% of the future residential growth is recommended. Some of the highlights to these targeted growth areas include that the 7 prior urban development areas are replaced with 6 targeted growth areas. The targeted growth area limits have been modified and some areas combined, and the amount and type of growth has been modified to match the revised population projections. The targeted growth area development summary, the chart on the screen, identifies the build-out potential of each area, which also includes commercial square footage estimates. The Central Stafford is a new planning area around the Stafford Regional Airport. It extends from Accokeek Creek to the north, south to the Centerport Parkway interchange area. The area is recommended mainly for business and industry use, with an estimated 12 million square feet of commercial at full build-out, and also 2 smaller mixed-use areas. This area includes portions of 3 of the urban development areas. Each of the planning areas is described in greater detail and includes generalized land use concept maps to provide a better idea of how land use may be distributed throughout each planning area. And this is just a sample of the courthouse planning area and the land use concept map there. Chapter 3 incorporates recommendations out of the Airport Land Use Compatibility Study that was developed last year. The image on the right is an example of how the airport study is applied to the plan. This sample planning area is divided into sub-areas that are relative to the air traffic patterns and proximity to the airport runway, and recommendations in the plan text then identify what uses might be considered not compatible or might need additional review, consistent with the recommendations of that original study. The entire original study has been added to the appendix of the plan for reference if somebody wants to refer to the more detailed study. For the most part, the urban service area limits remain unchanged. There are 3 exceptions. The first area is along Raymouth Church Road, south of the intersection with Courthouse Road. It is currently designated for agricultural and rural, as you can see on the map on the left. Expansion of the urban service area, the red line, would change future land use in the area between Augustine North and Colonial Forge to suburban. That's the yellow highlighted land use. The next area of expansion is along Holly Corner Road. This is west of Stafford Lakes Village. It's currently in this area that's within the blue circle. It's currently designated agricultural and rural, and expansion of the urban service area also would change the future land use to suburban as well in this location. One area of reduction, one area includes reduction of the urban service area. It's on the north side of Kings Highway. This area represents the Sherwood Farm property and former Renaissance Fair site. The area is currently designated for business and industry. It's in the gray shading, and within the urban service area. As proposed, it would be designated agricultural/rural and located out of the urban service area. The plan continues to recognize the Marine Corps Base Quantico and the potential land use conflicts that exist. There are updates to the military facility impact section consistent with the recent Quantico joint land use study that was conducted. This slide shows the updated mapping and land use compatibility tables resulting from that effort, and these are included in Chapter 3 of the plan. Other amendments associated with the 5-year update include updated land use and zoning data, demographics. There are modifications to policies to highlight the importance of adequate facility planning and new utility expansion criteria in Chapter 2. There are updated land use and zoning data, demographics, and public facility and infrastructure inventories, and associated maps in Chapter 6. Chapter 6 is the existing conditions chapter. And in Chapter 7, there are adjusted implementation task completion dates that reflect the new approval year of the document. And then also, we've deleted complete or outdated implementation tasks from Chapter 7. In conclusion, staff does support the adoption of the new 2016 to 2036 plan. On May 25th, the Planning Commission voted 5-2 to recommend approval of the plan. Regarding additional comments, there were additional comments from the board at your June 21st meeting. The board had several suggestions for minor modifications to the plan. They include supporting the GWRC's Affordable Housing Committee as a means of forwarding the current policy and implementation task associated with affordable housing. Also, there were comments that, given the repeal of the proffer guidelines, suggestions to amend the policy and implementation tasks associated with that, and then also consider adding noise impact study map that includes noise contours to the military facility impact section in Chapter 3. Staff report includes suggested text changes to Chapter 2 policies and Chapter 7 implementation tasks in response to these issues raised by the board. Also, I want to add that staff did send the plan to VDOT for review as required by the state code. Their comments are not finalized, but in your add-on folder, you did receive a draft that reflects that their comments are dealing with factual information as opposed to substantive changes and substantive issues. So should the board be inclined to approve the plan, staff would request the ability to incorporate VDOT's comments into the final draft of the plan. And also, as a reminder, pursuant to the state code, the board has a deadline of August 25th to act within 90 days of the Planning Commission's recommendation date. And I'll take any questions at this time.
Okay, do we have any questions? Mr. Snellings.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just have one. The population projection differences between us and FAMPO, what caused such a huge difference there? Are we using a different formula, or?
Well, there likely was a different formula, but also their projection was conducted several years ago, and so as the years go on, the difference is going to get greater and greater. That's a big part.
So they don't update their projections that often.
They mentioned we talked to them about this. They are going to be looking at updating the projections. We mentioned our methodology. They didn't have a problem with that, and they said they would look at what we've worked on as part of their consideration for their new projections when they get to that.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. I've made it through once, and in a detailed, the second time through I'm about 60%, so I do have some questions, but my sense from talking to board members today is we're probably not going to be acting on this, so I'm going to save these for later. I'm answering some of my own questions as I go through different sections, do that, so I will also hold my questions until later. Okay. At this time, we will open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to address the board on this public hearing topic will have an opportunity to do so. When you come to the podium, please state your name and address. You'll have 3 minutes. When you see the yellow light, you have 1 minute remaining. And when you see the red light, we need you to wrap it up. Thanks. Actually, I'll do speaker cards. Miss Irma Clifton, you reminded me. And after that, we'll have Miss Ruth Carlo.
Mr. Chairman and members of the board, good evening. My name is Irma Clifton, and I live at 100 Carter Street in beautiful and historic downtown Falmouth. Saving Sherwood Forest and the sizable buffer around it is laudable and seems to be recommended in this proposed comprehensive plan, and for that I'm grateful. But there are many other sites and structures in the county that deserve recognition as well. Historic and cultural preservation should not become secondary to rampant commercial and residential development in our area. The impact of such developments should be weighed against its effect on the precious and dwindling resources of our historic cultural areas. Sherwood Forest may be safe for now, but what of its future? Taking it out of the sewer service area will help, but that will not always be the case, and change could be in the future. Some developers may not be sensitive to the county's historic and cultural sites and put profit before the county's heritage. All sites that may be considered a cultural or historic resource should be considered before a plan is approved, and when an application is submitted for any zoning changes or an amendment to the plan is made. This could be assured if the county could fund a full-time historic preservation officer as part of the planning and zoning office staff. Our neighbors to the north, Prince William and Fairfax, already have a fully staffed office, and Stafford has as many, if not more, important sites than they do. When considering this proposed comprehensive plan tonight, please be aware of the many cultural resources that our county encompasses and put our heritage before the developer's profits. Our next generation will thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
That's a lot of silence on the television. Ruth Carloni, 300 Mount Olive Road. I'm with Irma Clifton 100%. Tourism is a cash cow, and we must keep thinking that. We missed out on some chances of the obtaining the Hudson House out on Route 3 with 26 acres and a beautiful exhibition barn, but that's gone. But anyway, if we tear down or change too much our homes that are in the historic district or ones that we consider historic outside the district, we lose a lot of that flavor that we have, and we should be pushing that. Now, one of the things, some of these are new to me. Not familiar. I've tried to read very quickly through this, but I'm wondering about the cost of repealing the proffers. What is that going to cost us for us to do to take the place of those proffers? Does anybody have any figures on that? The other issue, and I didn't see it here, and I tried to look it up, in our area, in rural areas, there's a lot of, if you'll notice, increase in the number of cluster developments. They are not economical. They are a draw on our water table, our aquifer. I would like very much, we've tried to get our supervisor to look into having a water table study, aquifer study, and so far, no good. But for the, I better hurry. For the cluster developments, when they're in the non-USA, there are tremendous, I guess the Aquia supervisor has more important things to do.
Ma'am, address me, please.
I didn't know his name. Anyway, it's important for the people out there to get a water table study, aquifer study. You can compare it with the one from 2005. We've had about 150 houses or more added on well and septic in our immediate area. Oops. Anyway, I didn't see anything here. It mentions that about connecting to the water supply, but we don't have a water supply. We don't have any water lines in case of fires. Anyway, I'm kind of rambling here because I digress from my board here. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone on my right wish to address the board? Dr. Crisp, welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Chairman and ladies and gentlemen of the Board of Supervisors. I am Harry Crisp, and I live on Kings Highway in the George Washington District. We have just finished celebrating our Independence Day holiday, and it brings to mind that one of the principal liberties that we enjoy as private citizens is to be able to make free and open inputs to our elected public officials in forums such as this. So we greatly appreciate this opportunity to speak to you at this public hearing on the draft update to the comprehensive plan. I would especially like to thank the Planning Commission for the fine effort they put into preparing the draft update to the comprehensive plan. I did participate in one of the public input sessions conducted by the Planning Commission that provided the citizens an opportunity to indicate those areas in the county where residential and commercial growth should be targeted, as well as those areas that remain largely rural. I think the draft update to the comp plan does a good job of incorporating the public input, as indicated by Figure 3-6, the proposed future land use map. It is particularly important to note those areas in the county where the draft new comp plan indicates high-density development is not desirable or intended. In that regard, I am very pleased to see that the southeastern boundary of the urban services area is now proposed to be set at Forest Lane Road. The land east of Forest Lane Road is predominantly rural and agricultural. Much of it has been continuously farmed since early colonial times and has a significant historical legacy, including Native American, colonial, and Civil War. The land east of Forest Lane Road should never come under intense high-density development for a number of reasons besides its historical legacy. Such development would require very significant investment in infrastructure and services, including schools, roads, water and sewer, and public safety. It would totally destroy the rural characteristic of this part of the county. Setting the USA boundary at Forest Lane Road as proposed by this comprehensive plan update will help ensure that this does not happen. I encourage you to vote to update or approve this update to the comprehensive plan. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else on my right?
I was hoping there'd be somebody else because here comes the wife of Dr. Harry Crisp, Bobby Barrett Crisp. And I've lived in Stafford County all my life. I was educated at Stafford High School. All 4 of my children went to Stafford, and there were 9 Barrett children that have lived and profited from being citizens in a rural area of Stafford County, which we so treasure out in South Stafford. Living in the George Washington District out on Kings Highway, I'd say we're about 3 miles from Forest Lane, but much closer to the end of Sherwood Forest, which we call Judyville Stretch, that long, straight, beautiful pastoral stretch of road out on Route 3. So for over 70 years, my family and I have enjoyed this rural characteristic of this part of the county. We have lived here and loved the open fields and the beautiful forest land in close proximity to the beautiful Rappahannock River. We also greatly appreciate and treasure the historical legacy of the land from pre-colonial times through the Civil War and beyond. The Ball family connection to Sherwood Forest Farm, especially Mary Ball Washington and her son George Washington, is especially noteworthy. It is part of the original 1,600-acre land grant made in 1667 to Mary Ball Washington's grandfather, William Ball. George Washington managed and paid the taxes on 400 acres of his mother's inherited land. It was in the hands of the Ball family members for nearly 200 years. During the Civil War, the Union Army troops were posted at Sherwood on the alert for General Stonewall Jackson's army across the Rappahannock River. In recent years, large lot subdivisions have begun to encroach on some of this beautiful surrounding land. However, the area still remains largely agricultural. It would be an abomination for this beautiful part of our county to be subjected to high-density development. I'm very happy to see the proposed update to the comprehensive plan, and it sets the southeastern boundary of the urban service area at Forest Lane Road. This will help assure that the land east of this boundary will remain largely rural in character. I encourage you to vote to approve this update to our comprehensive plan. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone on my left wish to address the board?
Good evening. My name is Joe Knight, and I live at 103 Nautical Cove. I think that the comp plan has a little bit of tweaking that may need to be done, and you've probably already heard about it. This isn't major, but you know, the Holly Corner Road expansion area that was just illustrated with Mike has 2 parcels that lie between the major parcel that was the old sod farm and Stafford Lakes. There's Stafford Lakes and Holly Corner Road that has the large. I'm not doing this well. I should have had a slide or something, but I do have a paper that illustrates the owner of the farm is part of the family who owns the adjoining parcel that corners. It's right in the intersection of Cricket Lane and Holly Corner Road. It's broken up. It's in 2 parcels, but it ties in just really well, and it would make sense for the comp plan to extend over to Cricket Lane. I think you would find that to be true. What should I do? You can't see it that well, can you? Oh, you can really? Okay. At any rate, I really think it's a shame that's not included. It's all owned by basically the same family. That second piece ties in so well, and I think that in the past it was in the comp plan for density for residential, and then was taken out for some fluky reason, and I would like to see it back in there if it were possible. I know there's a family who would greatly appreciate having it all together and all become, and I can leave this for anyone who might want to review and consider it, and I'll give you the parcels that are involved. I think part of the family is here tonight. Would like to encourage it.
Okay.
There you go, Mike. You can pass it on.
Thank you. Anyone else on the left?
Good evening, board members and staff. My name is Becky Reed. I live at 223 Butler Road in Falmouth. There are many places in Stafford for development, but the Kings Highway area should not be one of them. There are few rural areas left in Stafford now. Please set the boundary line for the urban services area at Forest Lane Road and keep this area from high-density development. We have few chances to take action like this, and I hope you will be happy to do so. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone in the entire chambers is welcome to come.
Good evening. My name is Douglas Brown. I live at 5 Franz Court, and I've been a resident of Stafford almost 30 years. As an urban planner and landowner, I have been active in previous comp plan updates, and so I would like to share a few observations on the current plan. First of all, I would like to commend the staff for all the hard work that has gone into this document. On a macro level, given all the recent changes in the state code, planning staff has done a good job of ensuring that the proposed comp plan continues the previous comp plan goal of keeping growth in the growth areas. A focus on smart growth policies that envision 80% of the future growth will be channeled into the targeted growth areas and adjacent suburban areas will help minimize the remaining by right growth from sprawling into the countryside. Time will tell if the implementation of the 50-30-20 mix of growth will work. Therefore, I encourage the board from time to time to track the progress of the residential development to make sure that over the next 5 years, the growth policies are actually achieved. Obviously, it will require rezonings to accomplish the 50% TGA growth target. While the intent of the new state mandates on proffers are fairly clear, the local implementation policies remain to be seen as to whether new rezonings will be encouraged or if they'll be rejected because the counties just say no. My point is that the success of smart growth implies future rezonings. So I hope the board will come up with a fair policy that will actually allow implementation of the comprehensive plan goals. With respect to the TGAs, I believe most of the changes from the previous urban development areas are positive, although in some cases they don't go far enough. For example, in the courthouse TGA, the addition of a mixed commercial and residential area around the hospital, I think will help the courthouse area mature into a livable community. An example of where the comp plan does not go far enough, in my opinion, is around Leland Station. The idea of transit-oriented development is the foundation of many smart growth policies. However, in my opinion, the Leland TGA is not really configured to encourage commuters to be able to live near the station. The area north of the tracks is too small with fragmented ownership to really be a feasible targeted growth area. In contrast, there are areas adjacent to Leland Station that are better suited to the idea of transit-oriented development that are currently outside the UDA. Although I noted that the draft does give some voice to flexibility to allow infill development, my hope is that the comp plan will be interpreted with some flexibility as long as the end product generally conforms to the goals. Finally, with respect to transfer of development rights, I hope that the county will continue to encourage the pilot program, focusing on crow's nest lots, and seriously consider expanding the program to preserve all of the rural areas countywide. In closing, I would encourage you to adopt the comprehensive plan, but to ensure that it is a living document by monitoring and careful planning.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to address the board?
Good evening.
Welcome.
Frank White. I live at 13 South Point Lane. I'm here today to address the issue of the USA to remove the area north of Kings Highway and east of Forest Lane from USA and redesignate a portion of the mining area south of Kings Highway to agriculture. I want to thank the Planning Commission for approving this, but I want to say that a couple of days ago I was at Fur Farm. Matter of fact, 4th of July, and I got wet. And the reason I got wet because I went there to see the foundation being built of George Washington's boyhood home. What happened was, and while I was there, I was thinking about some people coming before the Board of Supervisors a few years ago, and I was thinking about Walmart being proposed to build the store on the Fur Farm property. Now, I got wet, and I was thinking if I'd been shopping at Walmart, I would not have gotten wet. But I also thought that if I'd been shopping by Walmart, the county, the state, and the nation would have lost a national treasure. They would have gotten what they want, but we, the citizens, would have lost what we had. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else in the chambers?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the Board of Supervisors. For the record, I'm Kevin Crown with Walton Development and Management, with offices at 1650 Tysons Boulevard, Tysons, Virginia. And I'm representing Walton, Virginia, LLC, the owners of the Sherwood property located on Kings Highway. As some of you are aware, we've spent a lot of time and resources in the stabilization of the historic structures on Sherwood property, preventing them from further deterioration. And this has been evidenced by a recent award that we received from the Historic Preservation Commission, which we're deeply proud of. Additionally, some of you are aware we're in the process of meeting with local stakeholders in the area, which we are hopeful will provide us greater insight and guidance into the developing conceptual plans regarding our vision for the future development of the property. A vision that includes some ideas that we believe will be beneficial to the county in a variety of ways. But this is a topic of discussion for another time. In the interest of time this evening, I would like to express some concerns regarding the contraction of the urban services area boundary and the change in the underlying land use designation from business and industry to agricultural/rural as it relates to the front of our property as well as other properties in this portion of the Kings Highway corridor. We believe that the existing urban services area boundary and the future land use designations of business and industry should remain as they currently identified in the comprehensive plan. The proposed contraction of the urban services area boundary seems a bit incongruous with the fact that water and sewer infrastructure already exists along this stretch of Kings Highway, hence the location of the current urban services area boundary. With the addition of the county's Little Falls Run wastewater treatment facility located opposite the Sherwood property, clearly the intent was to address and assist with future growth in this part of the county. Keeping the status quo on these designations offers a wider opportunity for future economic development in the county. We agree that areas of designated future economic growth in the county in the central portion is well thought out. Likewise, the area along this portion of Kings Highway corridor is also appropriate for economic development. Sherwood and the Renaissance Fair properties have direct access to Kings Highway, a 4-lane divided roadway classified as a principal arterial under VDOT's functional classification system. This roadway provides direct access to points north and west via I-95 and Route 3 and provides access to points south and east by way of Route 301. Having an additional access to metropolitan Washington, D.C. by an alternate route across the Potomac coming up through Maryland indirectly helps alleviate some of the congestion along I-95. As such, the combination of adequate existing water and sewer infrastructure and a very good roadway, so critical to determining location for commercial development, makes this area of the county a very good choice for a potential major employer. This area of the Kings Highway corridor is also the eastern gateway into Stafford County, and both the Sherwood and the former Renaissance Fair properties are a significant part of this gateway, providing the potential for future economic development opportunities that could attract businesses that support local economic development, provide opportunities for spin-off businesses related to the work conducted at Dahlgren, or offer attractive alternatives for employment and the purchase of goods and services for residents in this part of the county, as well as those individuals entering Stafford County from the east. Many Stafford County residents currently commute north to employment opportunities in Northern Virginia and Washington, D.C., and I would venture to say they would welcome the potential for employment opportunities that would allow them to work much closer to home. In closing, we believe there is a unique economic development opportunity for the county at Sherwood that will attract employers, commercial retail, institutions of higher learning, retirees, entertainment and cultural resources, and investors and citizens desiring to work and live locally. As such, I would ask that you retain both the existing urban services boundary and the business and industry land use designation as delineated in the current comprehensive plan. Thank you very much for your time this evening.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to address the board?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and other members of the Board of Supervisors. My name is Charlie Payne with the law firm Hersher Fleischer, and we represent several property owners in Stafford County, two of the largest property owners in the county, and we have some comments and some concerns about the current draft comprehensive plan I'd like to share with you this evening. The three general areas that we are concerned with, I'll just get those out and then talk a little bit more detail about them. The Route 3 East reduction in the urban service area, the shrinking, if you will, contraction of the George Washington Village UDA, the lack of mixed uses southwest of Accokeek Creek and I-95, and the size and what encompasses the Stafford Central Business District. With that, I would just get into some details about each one of those and ask that you respectfully perhaps re-review where we are with the comprehensive plan and how best to move forward. I would say that staff has done a great job putting this comprehensive plan together. This amendment to the comprehensive plan is no easy task. Planning Commission did a wonderful and diligent job. We did participate in that process, but it appears I was unable to sway a majority of the Planning Commission members to sort of rethink about a few things. So I offer these comments to you, and I've also provided a letter, which I assume all of you have received, regarding our general comments. In regards to the Route 3 East Corridor and the contraction of the USA, Mr. Crown has made some very good points that I would just reiterate. One, this is our eastern gateway into the county. It includes a very nice road artery road network, if you will, in Route 3 East, four-lane divided highway, which can be expanded to 6 lanes. It does include already water and sewer in certain portions of that area. Our competitors to the east are very aggressive in attracting commercial and industry to their site off this same corridor on Route 3 East, including a focus on energy in that area. It is something that I think that we should be more aggressive about. The more opportunities we have for economic development within the whole county, not in just concentrations of our county, the more competitive we will be. This area also provides us a unique opportunity for redevelopment, for future development of folks who want to live, work in the area, and we encourage you to reassess the shrinkage, contraction, if you will, of the USA. The George Washington Village UDA, which has now been significantly contracted in regards to potential growth south of Ackie Creek and west of I-95. This could have a significant impact on the private side of our county investors in providing infrastructure to that area, including the extension of Mine Road. Stafford's Central Business District, it is huge. It has a huge footprint, a huge scope. It includes, as staff noted, 3 portions of former UDAs. Much of that area has been zoned for commercial industry in the past. As we all know, there hasn't been a lot of investment in that area for that purpose. Yes, sir. I'm sorry, Mr. Thomas. I'll be done in 2 seconds.
Yep, couple seconds.
I would ask that you take another look at that as the highest and best use of parcels in that particular area. Its expansion could have a significant impact on other properties in that particular area. Now, I apologize for going over, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Thank you for your
Thank you very much. Anyone else in the chambers? Okay. At this time, I will close the public hearing.
I apologize.
Oh.
I thought this person was walking.
Sorry about that.
Good evening. My name is Sean Weingast. I'm with Best Industries, and we own the Renaissance Fair site on Route 3. Renaissance Fair site is one of 6 targeted data centers in the county by economic development. It's also one of 4 targeted distribution centers. It's a rare M2 industrial site. It has a 4-lane divided highway. There are actually 2 crossovers on the property. It's also unique where this county has actually spent its own resources in bringing water to the property. I worked with the Silvers to bring sewer to right adjacent to my property. The property is right between, right on Route 3 between 95 and 301. It's also unique. It is right on the Dahlgren Spur, which is undergoing a serious study upgrades for rail services in that area. Right now we're looking at the comprehensive plan, and I want to thank everyone for its work, but I have 2 issues with the comprehensive plan. There are properties currently zoned M2 that the comprehensive plan shows this property with water, sewer, Route 3, divided highway, 2 crossovers, railway, Dahlgren, 301, and economic targets as agricultural. And that this would also create an economic disadvantage to us as we market the property, because many uses in the M2 zoning may wind up requiring, should this have a comprehensive plan of agricultural as comp plan amendments. My second issue is on the handout I just gave to you right now. In speaking to staff, I confirmed by this property being taken out of the USA that I would not be able to extend water that is currently located on my property, nor access and extend the sewer line that I helped put in immediately adjacent to my property. It's my understanding in talking to staff and the commissioners that this result was not intended, that no one thought that changes being proposed would stop business development in industrial zone properties. Therefore, what I gave to you guys was the 2 exceptions already approved by the commissioners for exceptions to the USA, and I'm asking for a 3rd limited exception in cases where this county has already zoned the property industrial and that sewer and water has already been extended to the property or adjacent to the property. Again, I would like this this board to consider a 3rd exception. We've already created 2, and I would also like to thank you for your consideration.
Thank you very much. Okay. Last call. We have another one.
Good evening. My name is John White. First, I want to thank the Board of Supervisors for just the opportunity to stand here and speak. Thank the Planning Commission for doing such an outstanding report. I'm interested in the urban service area, and I think it should be limited at Forest Lane. My family has been in the White Oak area, on Quezon Road area, from Wildcat Corner going east, for over 200 years. It's been a farming community. It's been a rural community. We love it that way, and we'd like to see it stay that way. And I think I would only reiterate some things that others have already said, but we like the White Oak area, the Wildcat Corner area. Thank you, as it is.
Thank you. Anyone else in the chambers wish to address the board? Okay. This time I'm really going to close the public hearing and bring it back to the board. Yep, I entertain a motion. Okay, we have a motion for deferral. Second. We have a second by Ms. Maurer. Any discussion on that?
Is this to August 16th?
Yes, August 16th.
Rashida, when do we have to vote on this by?
Your 90 days will be up on August 25th.
So we have to vote on it in August.
Yes, you have to have action. If there's no action taken, then it has to go back to the Planning Commission.
Good thing this is the only thing we have this summer.
And is it,
Mr. Milday?
is it safe to assume that some of these comments or all of them will be addressed at that point? If we're going to defer this right now, we're going to take a vote to defer?
Yeah, for instance,
I saw that, yeah.
one of the last speakers had referenced something that I've been working on with staff, so I will be bringing that recommendation forward. And then I've spoken to a couple supervisors about specifics in their district, and I'm assuming they will bring those forward as well for discussion. And I'm pretty sure as long as it's not a major change, we can take action. If it's a very major change, we would have to start the process, or at least the advertisement process.
That's correct, Mr. Chairman. We have to stay within the scope of the advertisement.
Okay. And the public will have an opportunity to speak to us again as well at the 3 o'clock and the 7 p.m. session. They're welcome to address this as well in case they have ideas that come up as well.
And will staff send us something in the interim? For instance, I am curious about, and even though it's not my district, the Holly Corner Road question, and a couple others.
Okay. Yeah.
So we're voting on it at 7 o'clock? You're going to put it on the 7 o'clock agenda? You just told
Probably
me
should.
2 chances to talk.
This is major enough. I think we should. If everybody's okay with that, I think we probably should take it up at 7 p.m., maybe before the public hearings. That way it does give the community an opportunity, since this is next to the budget, probably the most important document we have. Okay.
Rashida, in the event that the urban services area, the USA, is expanded, does that constitute a major change?
Supervisor Bomke, it really depends on the change. If there's a property that's currently in the USA, however, it was being proposed to be removed, if the board desires to add that back in, that wouldn't be a major change because you're going back to what's currently on the books. However, to add in property that was not advertised for addition, that would be expanding the boundaries and would have to be re-advertised, and that part at least would have to go back to the Planning Commission.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Mr. Miller?
Thank you.
I really liked one of the speakers, Mr. Brown, talking about the supporting this, understanding that it's flexible. This is not completely, this is not rock solid. We deviate slightly all the time from our comp plan. But I am also, I'll just say now, I've always been concerned about not enough density around our 2 railroad stations. And so that was a comment that I think we should ponder a little more.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay. We have a lot of homework to do over the summer break, and we will see this at the next meeting. Yep, I'm trying to think of who made the motion.
I did, and I seconded.
Okay, the clerk has that. Yep. Okay. If there's no further discussion, please cast your votes on the deferral. Tally the vote. The motion passes 7-0. Seeing no other business, the meeting is now adjourned.